It's been said before, but obviously it bears repeating, that it's okay to change one's mind when confronted with new information. But also, it's okay to change one's mind when confronted with a new understanding of information that has existed unchanged for centuries. Many of you may not know, but I used to be a Republican. I was raised in a hyper-conservative, fundamentalist, evangelical Christian household by parents who, at this very moment, are still conservative, Christian nationalist, Republican loyalists. I was raised with a white Christian nationalism ideology, one that has slowly taken shape over the course of the past few decades to become a dominant and driving cross-section of the Republican voter base. So I was someone who used to think about the issue of reparations with arguments like these from Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, I don't think reparations for something that happened 150 years ago, for whom none of us currently living are responsible, is a good idea. We've, tried to deal with our original sin of slavery by fighting a civil war, by passing landmark civil rights legislation. We've elected an African-American president. I think we're always a work in progress in this country. But no one currently alive was responsible for that. And I don't think we should be trying to figure out how to compensate for it. First of all, it'd be pretty hard to figure out who to compensate. We've had waves of immigrants as well who've come to the country and experienced dramatic discrimination of one kind or another. So no, I don't think reparations are a good idea.
Statements like this, to many, seem reasonable, logical even. I've changed my mind about them, and I want to explain why. Why this argument no longer works for me, and why I believe it shouldn't work for you either. Let's address them one by one with a better, more comprehensive eye on history and the facts. McConnell says the thing about no one being alive today who implemented the hideous and morally unjustifiable practice of slavery. In that, he's asserting that we, America, founded and governed by white men, and we, America, the same nation that caused the harm, did the damage, created an economy and system of laws which incentivized the ownership of our fellow man, that we, America, should be off the hook because the very same nation, governed by white men, was able to ignore that very harm and damage over the course of 150 years. Listen, being an expert at avoiding consequence doesn't absolve our nation of its undeniable guilt. And it certainly doesn't erase a debt. All 150 years does is compound interest on that debt. Compounded interest in the way of pain and trauma. And yes, compounded interest on that unpaid debt. He also said that we've tried to deal with our original sin of slavery by fighting a civil war, by passing landmark civil rights legislation, and even by electing an African-American president. Those things aren't repaying a debt. Those things are merely doing the bare minimum related to human decency and basic civil rights and adherence to the stated protections of the United States Constitution. Mitch McConnell listed those things like he deserves an award for them, for the bare minimum. Apparently, Mitch McConnell is a participation trophy kind of fella. And then he repeats the same points that we're always a work in progress in this country, but no one currently alive was responsible for slavery. And while that is true, there isn't a single soul alive who's responsible for implementing or participating in slavery. There are certainly millions of white American families who have reaped the financial benefits through inheritance and the brutal systems of white supremacy which followed the Civil War.